Welcome to today's news wrap up. Let's dive right into the top stories making headlines today. Billionaire venture capitalist Peter Thiel has expressed support for President Trump's push to overhaul trade relations with China, calling for a drastic reset in the economic relationship. While he acknowledged the efficiency of certain U.S. China ties, such as low cost labor in factories like Foxconn, he argues that the broader geopolitical rivalry must be factored into trade policy. Thiel suggests shifting production to countries like Vietnam, which, despite its flaws, poses less of a global threat than China. And I would agree. This is exactly what these tariffs is about. It's to renegotiate with China or find better countries to work with. But his comments follow China's decision to raise tariffs on U.S. imports to 125% in response to Trump's move to increase duties on Chinese goods to 145%. Now, the Chinese officials have criticized the escalation as bullying or coercion, while Trump remains optimistic about reaching this deal. And I think he will reach a deal because China is already suffering. You find some posts, even though the Chinese the CCP try to cover up these posts, delete these posts, get rid of these posts, but you see some people in China already feeling the hurt of our tariffs. I don't think they're going to they're not going to be able to handle this for long. But the administration argues that tightening trade restrictions will strengthen the U.S. economy and encourage allies to rethink their dependence on China, on Chinese manufacturing. And I would agree with that. Newly declassified FBI documents reveal that former NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers informed investigators uh, in June 2017, that a Washington Post article from the previous month, which claimed President Trump had urged intelligence officials to downplay the FBI's uh, Russia probe, was inaccurate. Despite Rogers' refutation, uh, the article remained uncorrected and contributed to the Washington Post 2018 Pulitzer Prize win. You think they're going to give that Pulitzer Prize back for lying? Yeah, right. But these revelations have intensified former President Trump's defamation lawsuit against the Pulitzer Board, which continues to uphold the award, which makes no sense. They need to take it from them. How you get an award um, for um, um, for an article that turned out to be false? But the documents, part of Crossfire Hurricane investigation, suggests that the FBI was aware of discrepancies in the media narrative, but did not publicly address them. Because why would they? Why would they help out Trump, right? But neither the Washington Post nor the Pulitzer Board has responded to those findings, raising concerns about media accountability and the integrity of journalism during politically sensitive investigations. Crazy Representative Jasmine Crockett has come under scrutiny following remarks made during an interview with Don Lemon, where she suggested that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene might be hesitant to engage physically due to Crockett's background as a criminal defense attorney. You crazy? Do you see the arms of Marjorie Taylor Greene? No, I don't think Crockett can take her. But this statement has been interpreted by some as a veiled threat, which it is. She goes around making these threats and just saying whatever the heck she want to say, threatening people, inciting violence, and nothing happens to her. There's absolutely no accountability to what this lady's been saying. Attorney General Pam Bondi criticized Crockett's rhetoric, linking it to recent incidents in Texas and accusing her of promoting violence, which is exactly what she's doing. But Bondi emphasized the potential consequences of such statements, especially when they coincide with acts of violence. Additionally, Crockett faces a federal election commission investigation concerning her campaign finances, following a complaint by the Coolidge Reagan Foundation regarding funds raised through Act Blue. You know, I've done reports on how they take money and commit fraud basically with Act Blue. But these developments have intensified debates over political discourse and accountability. I don't really hold my breath. I don't think there's going to be any accountability for Act Blue and the fraud they've been committed by money laundering and taking money from billionaires and giving it to these corrupt politicians. I don't think there's anyone going to be held accountable for that, but we'll see. Kamala Harris is facing widespread mockery over her reported plan to launch an institute dedicated to policy and ideas. The initiative, revealed in the New York Times article, is being considered as Harris and her husband, Doug Emhoff, explore future political opportunities. Some of Harris's allies have raised concerns, and these are her allies, about potential political backlash, particularly regarding fundraising for the center. Because we know they took $1 billion, they had $1.5 billion Kamala Harris raised and ended up in debt. How do you do that? She's terrible at managing money. Who in their right mind would use her to fundraise? Well, social media users have ridiculed the concept, with critics pointing to her past campaign struggles and frequent verbal gaffes. Commentators sarcastically suggested names for the institute, referencing Harris's often mocked speech style. Despite the skepticism, her team remains engaged in discussions with universities like Howard and Stanford about moving the idea forward. They're delusional. But that's par for the course when it comes to these crazy leftists. Newly uncovered emails revealed that the Biden administration was directly involved in Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the January 6 events known as Arctic Frost. To that I say, duh, we've already known this. But the White House counsel's office provided cell phone records of Trump and Pence to federal investigators, even though neither was initially a subject of the case. Senators Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley have raised concerns about the collaboration between FBI agents, DOJ prosecutors, and the Biden administration, emphasizing the need for transparency. Whistleblowers claim that the Biden White House played a key role in advancing the investigation, supplying electronic data and communication records early on. The senators have requested all related records to determine how Trump later became a criminal subject in the case. The DOJ and FBI have yet to respond respond publicly to these demands. Records from Dr. Tom, and I'm gonna kill his name, Shimabukuro, a top CDC vaccine safety official, are reportedly missing, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. Of course they are. How does documentation just disappear, right? Senator Ron Johnson has raised concerns about potential mishandling of these records, which could obstruct oversight efforts regarding COVID-19 vaccine safety. Johnson has requested investigations into whether Shimo Buruko or other HHS officials deleted or destroyed agency records to avoid congressional scrutiny, which is illegal. The senator emphasized that such actions would violate the Federal Records Act and could lead to contempt of Congress charges. HHS has not confirmed whether investigations have been initiated, and Johnson criticized the agency's lack of transparency. The situation highlights broader concerns about accountability and oversight within government agencies. Lastly, President Donald Trump has refuted media claims suggesting that certain Chinese electronics received permanent tariff exemptions, clarifying that no such exemptions exist. He explained that the products in question remain subject to a 20% fentanyl related tariff and have merely been reclassified under a different category, not exempted. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick supported this by stating that any current relief for electronics is temporary, with specific tariffs on semiconductors and related technologies expected within the next 2 months. The administration emphasizes that these measures aim to reduce reliance on foreign supply chains, particularly from China, and to bolster domestic manufacturing. Despite market volatility and criticism over policy consistency, officials maintain that these actions are necessary for national security and economic resilience. Well, that's all for today's news wrap up. Stay tuned for more updates and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.